Good morning. Today is Friday, June 4th. I'm Diana Wong, and this is your morning report. Just as the Roman Emperor Nero played his fiddle while Rome burned, our modern Nero, Obama, was reportedly fiddling with Paul McCartney while the United States crumbles into oblivion under his misleadership. Look, Obama's protection of British Petroleum's criminal negligence, which is only one among many of his crimes of treason, is blowing up in his face, with coordinated demonstrations all over the country demanding the shutdown of BP in the United States, and with more and more people implicating Obama in BP's cover-up of their oil spill. Not to mention that with Obama's help in covering up British Petroleum's mess, that people are using this event to come to draw their own conclusions that Obama is a British agent, acting against the national interests of his own country to protect a corrupt foreign conglomerate.
Third. Now, if you look at the failures of Obama, from everything from the massive BP oil spill to his administration's inhumane condoning of Israel's recent murderous boat raid, to his complete indifference to an American people suffering from an economic breakdown. If you look at all these things, Lyndon LaRouche made the emphatic point that in reality, the one thing that is going to bring Obama down is himself. The BP oil leak continues unstopped, and the devastating cost increase with each day, with the oil expected to reach the Florida coast by Friday. Obama's response continues to be a complete and utter failure, showing that as long as he is in office, there will be no solution to the crisis. But the point is, it's not this event as such that could bring Obama down. LaRouche already exposed what Obama is, a fool with the psychology of the Roman Emperor Nero, who is operating on the behalf of the interests of the British Empire, the declared enemies of everything our nation stands for. So it is not the case that this BP oil disaster as an event in and of itself would bring Obama down, but this is an event by which the reality of the situation becomes more apparent. Obama is and has always been acting as a traitor to the United States. What the American people must do is use this opportunity to force his removal from office immediately. As to the oil crisis, LaRouche yesterday reiterated the first step to solving this crisis. Take BP and expropriate the British sons of bitches. Take over BP. They owe us for this crisis. And the case for this takeover is clear. We have a private company from an imperial power which does not have any allegiance to the general welfare of the United States as their top priority in responding to this crisis. They've lied to us about the crisis. They have shown no intention to allocate the necessary resources to solve this quickly, and we have no way of forcing them to do so. So we, the United States, must treat this like a wartime crisis, meaning we have to do whatever must be done to solve this before the worst oil spill in world history destroys the economies and lives of more Americans. Already in the United States, there is a Seize BP movement building, with a week's worth of protests planned across the entire nation starting today. We must take LaRouche's program to nationalize BP North America. Then we can take the emergency measures to stop the massive oil flow devastating our Gulf and use BP's $100 billion of assets to both fund the cleanup and provide economic relief for those affected. But remember, as long as Obama remains in office, acting as an agent of foreign interests, we will see no solutions coming from the White House. So do not look for some objective event that will bring Obama down. We already know he is acting as a traitor to our nation. We have to take the opportunities presented and force his removal from office. So that is the immediate picture as of this morning.
Unknowns and unknown unknowns. The oil, which has been gushing out of the ocean floor for the past 45 days now, has devastated much of the Gulf waters from Louisiana up into Florida. Due to the direction of the Gulf Stream current, the spill is headed to wrap itself around the Florida coast and up the eastern seaboard all the way across the Atlantic to northern Europe. Consider the effect on the economy, such as the fishing industries of the entire southern and eastern U.S. coast, not to mention the environmental effects of having that quantity of petroleum not only on the surface, but suspended at various depths in the ocean. This may be the biggest environmental nightmare in U.S. history, and is clearly a national emergency. If a nuclear power plant were to begin to melt down, or say an enemy power managed to bomb one of the major industrial centers of our economy, how would the federal government respond? Would we simply let the private companies deal with the mess on their own? Or would it be declared a national emergency and treated as such by the federal government? Take the Oil Pollution Act of 1980. It gives the President of the United States the regulatory authority to intervene in such a case. Furthermore, the President has the authority to take control of any entity which operates within the U.S. jurisdiction that poses an imminent threat to the well-being and safety of American citizens. But a private company, especially a private British company, who's notorious for being the biggest cost cutters in the oil industry, does not hold American citizens nor American territory as its top priority in dealing with such a crisis. They're thinking about how to protect their shareholders, or maybe how to pay themselves as much as possible in bonuses before going bankrupt. The federal government's first priority should be to expropriate BP North America, as Lyndon LaRouche has called for, nationalize the company and put it under receivership. Then, the federal government can begin to implement engineering methods that will be expedient and effective in dealing with the spill on an emergency basis. Recently, LaRouche PAC consulted a number of experts in the field who presented a series of options which could be implemented if the government were to take charge of the situation. One immediate measure would be to deploy a number of empty oil tankers to begin sucking the oil out of the ocean, which could then be centrifuged when brought ashore to separate the oil from the water. This should have been done from the beginning to protect our coasts. There are other possibilities that have not even been considered because BP was lying about the situation the entire time. Their current strategy to cap the leak by August, which is not even certain under the measures they're using, at best will still leave leaks coming out of the damaged blowout preventer. This means that it is crucial for the U.S. government to launch a top-down operation to investigate every possible method for stopping this thing now, have the option if we do need it. The point is, there's a number of serious options that are not being investigated, and we need our engineers and scientists engaged in an all-out military operation that is committed to getting the job done. Each day that BP remains in charge is another several 100,000 gallons of oil pumped into our waters. So, why hasn't the President of the United States taken charge? Maybe Obama has other things on his mind? Offers. Being the president is a stressful job. Maybe he just wants to take time to engage in some musical activities. Legend has it that fiddling worked for Nero. While the crisis in the Gulf continues, with no executive action taken whatsoever to take charge of the situation, President Obama has found the time last night to present an award to Sir Paul McCartney and attend a 90-minute concert held at the White House. This shows us to whom his allegiances lie. Our first step in addressing any of the crises we're facing now is to force Obama out of office now.